My name is Cletus. I'm 34 years old, and I'm standing in Naples International Airport at 2 in the morning, completely lost. My phone buzzes with a message from my sister Miranda. Surprise. The wedding's in Florence. LOL. My stomach drops. I just spent $44,000 on her wedding, flew 14 hours to Italy, and apparently I'm in the wrong city. What I didn't know then was this wasn't a miscommunication. It was just the beginning of the ultimate betrayal. Before I tell you how I handled this situation, let me know where you're watching from, and hit subscribe if you want to hear more family drama stories that will make yours seem normal in comparison. Growing up in the suburbs of Boston, our family seemed normal from the outside. I was the firstborn, 7 years older than Miranda, which meant I was more like a third parent than a brother most of the time. Our childhood was comfortable middle-class American life, until everything changed when I turned 18. Dad died suddenly from a heart attack, leaving Mom devastated, Miranda traumatized at 11, and me stepping into adult responsibilities overnight. The college acceptance letter, with a full scholarship to MIT, sat on my desk the day of Dad's funeral. I remember staring at it for hours before calling the admissions office to defer. That deferment eventually turned into a decline, as I took a full-time sales job at a local electronics store to help Mom with the bills. Miranda needed stability, and Mom couldn't provide it alone while working 2 jobs. "Your sister needs you," Mom would say whenever I mentioned community college night classes. "You're smart enough already. Miranda is still developing." So I stayed. I worked 60-hour weeks, moved up to assistant manager within a year, and made sure Miranda had everything she needed for school. I drove her to soccer practice, helped with homework, and tried to fill the enormous void Dad left behind. Those early years, Miranda looked at me with such gratitude and love. She'd make me handmade birthday cards with "World's Best Brother" written in colorful markers. We had movie nights every Friday, and I taught her to ride a bike in the park near our house. The summer before Miranda started high school, something shifted. The sweet, appreciative sister disappeared, replaced by someone manipulative and entitled. When I couldn't buy her the exact designer jeans her friends had, she accused me of ruining her social life. "You're not my dad. Stop pretending you are," she screamed, slamming her bedroom door. Mom always took her side. "She's a teenager, Cletus. She lost her father at a critical age. We need to be understanding." Understanding became our family's code word for enabling Miranda's increasingly problematic behavior. When she stole $50 from my wallet to buy concert tickets, Mom called it borrowing and said I was being too rigid. When she wrecked my car after taking it without permission and came home drunk at 16, Mom suggested I should have hidden the keys better. Despite everything, there were still moments of connection. Teaching Miranda to drive on empty back roads, both of us laughing as she stalled the car repeatedly. Surprising her with tickets to see her favorite band, and seeing genuine joy and surprise on her face. The night before she left for college, she hugged me and whispered I wouldn't have made it without you, and for a moment I felt like all the sacrifices were worth it. By then, my career had taken an unexpected turn. A customer at the electronics store offered me a job at his tech startup. I had a natural talent for sales and relationship building. Within 5 years, I had worked my way up to VP of Business Development. 3 years after that, I launched my own software company that specialized in supply chain management solutions. Success came quickly. By 30, I had the financial stability I'd always craved. My first major splurge wasn't on myself, but on paying off Mom's mortgage. My second was funding Miranda's graduate school education at Columbia. She wanted to study art history, and while I questioned the practical applications, I wanted her to pursue her passions. "You're just trying to control me by paying for everything," she accused over dinner when I handed her the check for tuition. "You love lording your success over me." "Miranda, I'm just trying to help," I said, confused by her reaction. "I never had the chance to finish school. I want you to have opportunities." "Whatever helps you sleep at night," she replied, but she took the money anyway. She always took the money. Through her 20s, Miranda developed a pattern. She'd call only when she needed something, making me feel useful and needed. She'd be warm, funny, reminiscing about childhood memories, showing glimpses of the sister I'd sacrificed so much for. Then once she got what she wanted, communication would cease until the next crisis or request. Mom continued to mediate, always explaining away Miranda's behavior. She's finding herself, or she's sensitive like your father was. The comparisons to Dad were emotional manipulation that always worked. I'd do anything to honor his memory, including putting up with Miranda's increasing entitlement. When I started dating Samantha, a kind-hearted pediatrician who saw through Miranda, immediately the tension escalated. During a holiday dinner, Miranda accidentally spilled red wine on Samantha's white dress, after my girlfriend gently suggested Miranda might consider contributing to family gatherings rather than just showing up empty-handed. It was just an accident, Mom insisted, though Miranda's smirk said otherwise. Samantha and I broke up 6 months later. Your family dynamic is unhealthy, she told me, and you can't see how they're using you. I dismissed her concerns, but deep down I knew she was right. Still, family was family. I couldn't turn my back on them, especially when I was the only stable presence in their lives, or so I told myself. 2 years ago, Miranda called me, bubbling with excitement. She'd met someone special at a gallery opening in New York. Antonio Ricci was charming, sophisticated, and heir to a prestigious vineyard in Tuscany. Their romance moved at warp speed, the kind that raises red flags for everyone except those involved. He's the one, Cletus, Miranda gushed over FaceTime, flashing a vintage emerald engagement ring after just 6 months of dating. We're getting married in Italy next year. I tried to sound enthusiastic while mentally calculating how long they'd actually spent together in person, considering Antonio divided his time between New York and Italy. By my count, it was less than 30 days total. Don't you think you should spend more time getting to know each other? I suggested carefully. Not everyone needs to do a 5-year background check like you do with your boring girlfriends, Miranda snapped. When you know, you know. I met Antonio for the first time at Thanksgiving. He was undeniably charismatic with perfect English, accented just enough to sound sophisticated rather than foreign. He spoke passionately about his family's vineyard, the generations of winemaking tradition, and how he was modernizing their distribution channels. Your sister, she is like fire, he told me while we were washing dishes after dinner. Mom and Miranda, having conveniently disappeared to look at wedding magazines. So full of passion, so American in her directness. In Italy, we appreciate women who speak their minds. Something about his rehearsed compliments made me uneasy, but his family credentials checked out. The Ricci vineyards were indeed prestigious, featured in wine magazines, and stocked in high-end restaurants. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that Miranda was more enamored with the idea of becoming an Italian vineyard owner's wife than with Antonio himself. The wedding planning began immediately, with Miranda's vision growing more elaborate by the day. She wanted a full week of celebrations at a historic villa in the Italian countryside, with 75 American guests flying in for the event. Antonio's family is handling the ceremony and reception venue, since it's at their estate, Miranda explained during a planning dinner. But as the bride's family, we need to cover the rehearsal dinner, welcome party, my dress, jewelry, and the honeymoon. By we, she meant me. Mom was already nodding along enthusiastically. You've been so blessed financially, Cletus, Mom added. This is what your father would have wanted for you to make your sister's dreams come true. There it was again, the dad card. I looked at Miranda, who had mastered the art of looking simultaneously hopeful and entitled. I thought about all the financial support I'd already provided over the years, the tuition, the rent subsidies, the emergency credit card I kept refilling. But this was her wedding, a once-in-a-lifetime event. Or so I hoped. I'll help, I agreed, but let's set a budget. The budget conversation never happened. Instead, expenses appeared one by one. $12,000 for a designer wedding dress, $8,000 for first-class plane tickets, because we can't show up to meet Antonio's family looking exhausted, $6,000 for a custom-designed engagement party in New York, $5,000 for wedding rings, another $13,000 for various pre-wedding events, accommodations, upgrades, and contingencies. Before I knew it, I'd transferred $44,000 into the wedding account I'd set up. Each time I told myself this investment was building a bridge in our relationship. For the first time in years, Miranda and I were talking regularly. She sent pictures of venues, asked my opinion on flower arrangements, and seemed genuinely grateful. "You're the best brother anyone could ask for," she said during a rare moment of sincerity over lunch. "I know I don't always show it, but I appreciate everything you've done." That single moment of validation erased years of disappointment and manipulation. It was exactly what I'd been waiting to hear. For 6 months, I became deeply involved in wedding planning. I researched Italian customs to make sure we wouldn't commit any cultural faux pas. I helped select the menu, remembering Miranda's likes and dislikes from childhood. I even learned basic Italian phrases to impress Antonio's family. This wedding became a project through which I hoped to finally build the adult-sibling relationship I'd always wanted with Miranda. 2 weeks before the wedding, Miranda sent the final itinerary. The ceremony would take place on Saturday in Naples, with events spread throughout the week before. I was to arrive on Thursday for the welcome dinner. She included the name of the hotel where she'd booked my room and confirmed she'd send a driver to pick me up from the airport. "Can't wait to see you in Italy," her message ended. "This wouldn't be happening without you." For once I felt appreciated. I carefully packed my tuxedo, the custom cufflinks I'd had made with our father's initials to wear during the ceremony, and an obscenely expensive set of kitchen knives as a wedding gift, along with a diamond pendant for Miranda to wear on her wedding day. The night before my flight, Miranda texted, "See you in Naples tomorrow. So excited." Little did I know it was all an elaborate setup for the cruelest joke imaginable. My preparation for this trip was meticulous. I arranged for my assistant Rebecca to handle major client communications during my 2-week absence. I created detailed contingency plans for any potential business emergencies. I even prepaid my rent and utilities so I wouldn't have to worry about finances while celebrating my sister's special day. The journey was exhausting but filled with anticipation. 14 hours from Seattle to Rome, a 2-hour layover, then another hour to Naples. I arrived at 1:30 in the morning, local time, bleary-eyed but excited. The international arrivals area was nearly empty at that hour. I waited for the driver Miranda had promised, checking my phone repeatedly. After 45 minutes, I called her, straight to voicemail. I texted, "Landed in Naples." No sign of driver. "Should I take a taxi to the hotel?" No response. Assuming there had been a miscommunication with the driver, I took a taxi to the hotel Miranda had specified. The night clerk looked confused when I mentioned the wedding party. "No wedding party here, sir," he said, checking his system. "But we do have a reservation under your name for 3 nights. At least I had somewhere to sleep. I collapsed into bed, too tired to worry, assuming everything would be clarified in the morning. 6 hours later, my phone chimed with a text. I grabbed it eagerly, expecting an apology and explanation. Instead, I read, "Surprise! The wedding's actually in Florence. LOL, you're in the wrong city." I stared at the screen, uncomprehending. Florence was hundreds of miles away from Naples. I immediately called Miranda. No answer. I called Mom. No answer. I called Antonio. No answer. I texted Miranda. "This isn't funny. How do I get to Florence?" 20 minutes passed before her response. "Oh wait, did you actually go to Naples? I was just joking about the wedding. LOL. I didn't think you'd take it literally." My confusion deepened. "What are you talking about? I have the itinerary you sent. It clearly says Naples." This time her reply came quickly. "Well, truth is, I just didn't want to invite you. Who brings their brother to a destination wedding anyway? It's weird. You're always trying to control my life." The room seemed to tilt. I sat down heavily on the bed, reading and rereading her message. This couldn't be happening. I'd spent $44,000 on this wedding. I'd taken 2 weeks off work. I'd flown halfway around the world. "Is this some kind of joke?" I typed with shaking fingers. "Not a joke. A decision. You've controlled enough of my life. This wedding is mine." I called Mom again, desperately hoping for clarification. This time she answered. "Mom, what's going on? Miranda is saying the wedding isn't in Naples." "Oh, Cletus," she sighed with that familiar tone of disappointment. "Stop creating drama. You always do this, trying to make everything about you. What, I'm in Naples because that's where the itinerary said to go. No one's in Naples. The wedding's in Florence at Antonio's family estate. It always has been. Then why did Miranda tell me to come to Naples? Stop faking confusion, Mom snapped. This is your fault for always trying to insert yourself into Miranda's life. She wanted a break from you controlling everything. I paid for half this wedding. My voice rose in disbelief. That was your choice. No one forced you to contribute. The conversation continued in this surreal vein for several minutes. Mom rewrote reality, painting me as the intrusive, controlling brother who couldn't let his sister have her special day. According to her, I had somehow misunderstood every communication despite having written confirmation in text messages and emails. After hanging up, I sat motionless for nearly an hour. The weight of what had happened gradually settled on me. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a prank gone wrong. It was a deliberate exclusion cruelly executed. They had taken my money, my time, my emotional investment, and then discarded me like unwanted baggage. The devastation gave way to something unfamiliar, pure, unfiltered anger. I'd spent my entire adult life suppressing anger toward my family, making excuses for their behavior, accepting the role of financial provider and emotional punching bag. But sitting alone in a hotel room in Naples, 5,000 miles from home, I finally allowed myself to feel the full force of my rage. I walked to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and looked at my reflection. The man staring back had spent 16 years sacrificing his dreams, his relationships, his own needs for a family that saw him as nothing more than an ATM. That man deserved better. Enough, I whispered to my reflection. Enough being manipulated. Enough being taken advantage of. Enough sacrificing for people who wouldn't cross the street from me. As the initial shock wore off, practical concerns emerged. I was alone in Naples, Italy. The wedding I'd paid for was happening without me in Florence. I had 2 weeks of vacation time. What now? I couldn't face returning to Seattle, immediately admitting to friends and colleagues that my own sister had tricked me into flying to the wrong city to avoid having me at her wedding. The humiliation was too great. So I did the only thing that made sense. At that moment, I ordered room service a large whiskey and began planning how to respond to this betrayal in a way that wouldn't leave me looking like a fool. After finishing the whiskey, I needed air. I left the hotel and wandered aimlessly through the streets of Naples, a beautiful city I had never planned to visit. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was in Italy, just not the part of Italy where my sister was getting married with my money. As I walked, memories flooded back. Miranda, at 14, borrowing my credit card to buy clothes online, then crying when confronted, making me feel like the villain. Miranda, at 21, calling at 3 in the morning because she'd been arrested for drunk driving, needing $5,000 for a lawyer, then ghosting me for months after I paid. Miranda, at 26, living rent-free in my Seattle condo for 6 months, then moving out without notice and leaving thousands in damages. The pattern was so clear now. How had I been blind to it for so long? Each incident followed the same script. Miranda creates problem. Miranda asks for help. I provide help at personal cost. Miranda expresses brief gratitude. Then Miranda disappears until the next crisis. My phone buzzed. A message from Brad, one of our mutual friends who had been invited to the wedding. Dude, are you okay? Miranda just announced at the welcome dinner that you couldn't make it because of work commitments. Everyone's asking about you. I stopped walking. She was now actively lying to cover up what she'd done. I called Brad immediately. I'm in Naples, I explained. Miranda told me the wedding was here, but apparently it's in Florence. What? That's insane. Brad sounded genuinely shocked. Everyone got the Florence information months ago. Your name was even on the seating chart at tonight's dinner. Was it? I asked, a new suspicion forming. Yeah, but Miranda made a big announcement that you had a business emergency and couldn't make it. She seemed really disappointed. Even gave a toast about how you'd contributed so much to making the wedding happen. The manipulation was even deeper than I'd realized. She was playing the victim of my absence, while actively ensuring I wouldn't be there. Brad, what else has she said about me? He hesitated. Look, man, you're my friend, so I'm going to be honest. Miranda's been telling people for weeks that this whole Naples prank was her idea of a joke. She thought it would be hilarious to send you to the wrong city because you're, quote, so obsessed with controlling the wedding. She said you'd figure it out quickly and laugh about it. Did people laugh? I asked quietly. No, man. Most people looked uncomfortable. Antonio's parents especially. They kept asking if you were really okay with this American humor. Anything else I should know? Another pause. She told a few people that she's planning to use the money you contributed to upgrade their honeymoon to the Maldives. Said you wouldn't mind since you're, quote, swimming in tech money. Every word was another twist of the knife. I thanked Brad for his honesty and ended the call. My first instinct was to book the next train to Florence, march into that wedding, and expose Miranda in front of everyone. Public humiliation for public humiliation. But what would that accomplish? I'd look like the crazy, controlling brother she'd painted me to be. No, this required a more measured response. Something that would make a point without making me look unhinged. Something that would force Miranda to face the consequences of her actions without me having to be physically present. I spent the rest of the day researching Italian financial laws regarding gifts and monetary contributions. I documented every transaction, every text message about wedding expenses. I created a spreadsheet itemizing all $44,000 I had contributed. Then I began researching local artisans in Naples. If I couldn't attend the wedding, I could still send a gift. Just not the kind Miranda was expecting. While developing my plan, I decided to actually experience Naples rather than wallow in misery. I found a small family-owned restaurant near the historic center and ordered the local specialty pizza margherita. The owner, a gregarious man named Luigi who spoke broken English, noticed my solitary state. "American, why so sad in beautiful Napoli?" he asked, refilling my wine glass without charging for it. Something about his genuine concern broke through my reserve. I gave him the abbreviated version of my situation. Luigi's expression darkened as I spoke. Family was everything in Italian culture, he explained. What Miranda had done violated the most sacred bonds. This sister, she has no honor, Luigi declared, slamming his hand on the table. In Italy, family is life. Even when we fight, we respect. When I mentioned my plan for a special wedding gift, Luigi's eyes lit up. He had a cousin who was a stoneworker specializing in marble sculptures. If I wanted to send a message that would not be forgotten, Matteo was the man to create it. The next morning I met Matteo at his workshop. With Luigi translating, I explained exactly what I wanted. A marble statue 4 feet tall engraved with family gratitude in elegant script. Beneath would be an itemized list of every expense I had covered for the wedding, totaling $44,000. At the bottom, a simple message. A gift to remind you of family values. Matteo understood immediately. In Italian culture, such a public accounting would be deeply shameful to the recipient. It would force Miranda to confront her actions in a way that couldn't be ignored or explained away as a misunderstanding. 3 days, Matteo promised, already sketching designs. Will be beautiful. Will be truth in stone. While Matteo worked, I made additional arrangements. I hired a local law firm specializing in international finance to draw up official papers demanding repayment of the wedding loan. I contacted a courier service that would deliver the statue to the Florence villa the day after the wedding, when I knew the couple would be opening gifts before leaving for their honeymoon. I also drafted an email to Antonio's parents with documentation of my financial contributions and a carefully worded explanation of why I wasn't at the wedding. I didn't accuse Miranda directly, but simply presented the facts, allowing them to draw their own conclusions about the character of their new daughter-in-law. Each of these actions was calculated not for revenge but for accountability. I wanted Miranda to face the reality of what she had done, not just to me but to herself. By betraying the person who had supported her unconditionally, what kind of person was she becoming? During the waiting period, I struggled with doubts. Was I overreacting? Would this make me the villain in our family story? I discussed these concerns with Luigi over dinner at his restaurant. In my village, he said thoughtfully, we have saying, the knife that cuts bread can also cut flesh. Same action, different purpose. Your sister used family knife to cut you. You use same knife to cut bread of truth. Not to harm, but to feed reality. His wisdom filtered through imperfect English, and cultural differences resonated deeply. This wasn't about hurting Miranda. It was about finally stopping the cycle of manipulation and exploitation that had defined our relationship for too long. The night before the wedding, I received another text from Miranda, missing you at the rehearsal dinner. Everyone's asking about you. I told them your important business couldn't wait. Always the dedicated worker. The audacity was breathtaking. She was still maintaining the fiction that my absence was my choice, perhaps, to ensure I wouldn't expose her lie by suddenly appearing. I didn't respond. Instead, I sent a brief message to Brad: enjoy the wedding. Don't mention our conversation to anyone. I've handled things my own way. Then I turned off my phone, ordered another bottle of wine, and toasted to new beginnings. Tomorrow, Miranda would get married without me. The day after, she would receive a $44,000 reminder that actions have consequences. Mateo's workshop buzzed with activity as he and his 2 assistants worked on my commissioned piece. The slab of Carrara marble, the same material used by Michelangelo for his David, was being transformed into a message that no amount of manipulation could erase. The statue took shape over 3 days, 4 feet tall, weighing nearly 200 pounds. It was a simple column design with elegant Italian scrollwork framing the engraved text. At the top, family gratitude in both English and Italian. Below, the itemized list of wedding expenses I had covered. Wedding dress, $12,000. First-class flights, $8,000. Engagement party, $6,000. Wedding rings, $5,000. Pre-wedding events, $7,000. Accommodations, $3,000. Miscellaneous expenses, $3,000. Total $44,000. At the bottom, the message, my gift to you, a permanent reminder of family values and financial responsibility. Seeing it completed was oddly cathartic. There was something powerful about having my contributions literally set in stone, impossible to minimize or deny. I paid Mateo his fee, plus a generous bonus, and arranged for the statue to be carefully packaged for delivery. The legal documents were equally meticulous. The Italian law firm had prepared formal papers demanding repayment of the wedding loan within 90 days, with interest accruing after that period. They weren't legally binding without Miranda's signature acknowledging the debt, but they looked official enough to make an impression. The final touch was a USB drive containing copies of every email, text message, and bank transfer relating to the wedding, digital evidence of my generosity and Miranda's deception. Everything was scheduled for delivery to the Florence villa at noon, the day after the wedding, when traditional Italian weddings have a gift-opening gathering with close family. Antonio's parents would be there. Miranda's duplicity would be impossible to hide. As the day of the wedding arrived, I found myself surprisingly calm. From my hotel in Naples, I imagined the ceremony taking place hundreds of miles away. Miranda in her $12,000 dress, Mom wiping away tears of joy, Antonio's family welcoming them into their centuries-old tradition. None of them thinking about the brother who had made so much of it possible, deliberately excluded through a cruel deception. Brad sent a few photos. Miranda looked genuinely happy. For a brief moment, I questioned my plan. Was I about to ruin her happiness out of spite? Was I becoming as manipulative as she was? I called Luigi, who had become something of a confidant during my stay. The statue, the documents, I explained. I'm wondering if I'm going too far. Let me ask you, Luigi replied. If your sister had said, "Brother, I want wedding without you," and not taken your money, would you be angry? I thought about it. Hurt, yes. Angry, probably not. It's her wedding. And if she had said, "Brother, I need $44,000, but invited you properly," would you be doing this? No, of course not. So problem is not money alone, not invitation alone. Problem is dishonesty. Problem is using you, then throwing you away. This is not spite. This island. How you say. Teaching moment. He was right. This wasn't about the money or even the exclusion. It was about years of manipulation, culminating in this ultimate betrayal. My response wasn't revenge, but a refusal to be victimized anymore. The delivery was scheduled. The marble statue, legal documents, and USB drive would arrive at the villa at noon the next day. I had also arranged for delivery of a letter to Antonio's parents at their home address explaining the situation from my perspective. Not accusatory, just factual. They deserved to know what kind of person had joined their family. The night of the wedding, I treated myself to a private tour of Naples' historical sites, followed by a dinner at Luigi's restaurant. His family welcomed me as an honorary member, insisting I try every specialty of the house. For the first time since arriving in Italy, I felt a genuine sense of belonging. To new family, Luigi toasted, raising his glass of homemade limoncello, the ones we choose. I slept soundly that night, free from the anxiety that had plagued me since arriving in Italy. Tomorrow would bring whatever it would bring. I had spoken my truth in marble, and that was enough. The courier service confirmed delivery at 12:15 the next day. The package had been signed for by Antonio himself. Now, it was just a matter of waiting for the fallout. It came faster than I expected. At 1:30 my phone exploded with notifications. First, Miranda, what the hell is this? Are you insane? Then, Mom, how dare you ruin your sister's special day? This is unforgivable. Then a series of increasingly frantic messages from Miranda. Take it back. Everyone is staring at it. Antonio's parents are asking questions. I can't answer. Do you know how humiliating this is? I can't believe you would do this to me. I didn't respond to any of them. The truth was speaking for itself exactly as intended. An hour later, my phone rang. It was Miranda. I considered letting it go to voicemail, but decided it was time to hear what she had to say. How could you? She sobbed immediately. In front of Antonio's entire family. Do you have any idea what you've done? I think I do, I replied calmly. I've given you a wedding gift that reflects our relationship perfectly. They're all looking at me like I'm some kind of gold digger. Antonio's father asked if I married his son for the vineyard. And did you? How can you ask me that I love Antonio? Like you loved me, as your brother. Enough to take $44,000 from me, and then deliberately send me to the wrong city to keep me away from your wedding. Silence on the other end. Then in a smaller voice, it was just supposed to be a joke. I didn't think you'd actually go to Naples. A joke is something everyone laughs at, Miranda. Did you think I would laugh about spending thousands of dollars and flying across the world to be humiliated? More silence. Can I please pay you back? She finally whispered. Antonio's family. They're insisting. They said until the debt is cleared, it's a stain on their family honor. There it was. Not remorse for what she'd done to me, but concern about how it affected her new in-laws' perception. Still, it was a start. Yes, you can pay me back. The documents with the statue outline the terms, 90 days with interest after that. I don't have $44,000. You know that. Then I suggest you start with an apology, Miranda. A real one. Not for getting caught, but for what you did. The line went silent again. Then I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Is that what you want to hear? It's a start. I'll expect the first payment next month. I hung up, knowing this conversation was just the beginning of a long, complicated aftermath. But for the first time in our adult relationship, I had set the terms. No more excuses. No more manipulation. Just accountability. The hours following the statue delivery were a digital tsunami. Text messages, voicemails, and emails flooded in from family members and wedding guests. Most expressed shock either at my vindictiveness or at Miranda's deception, depending on whose side they took. Mom was firmly in Miranda's corner as always. Her voicemail was a 3-minute tirade about how I had always been jealous of Miranda and how I had ruined the one special day of her life. Not once did she acknowledge that I had been deliberately excluded after contributing $44,000. If your father could see what you've done, she concluded tearfully, he would be ashamed. Don't call us again until you're ready to apologize. Oddly, her attempt to wound me with Dad's memory fell flat. I realized I had outgrown the emotional manipulation that had controlled me for so long. Dad wouldn't have approved of my methods, perhaps, but he also wouldn't have approved of Miranda's actions or Mom's enabling. Some messages were more surprising. Several of Miranda's friends reached out to express sympathy. Apparently she had boasted about the Naples prank to her inner circle, and not everyone had found it amusing. I told her it was messed up, wrote her college roommate Rachel. Taking your money and then excluding you was beyond cruel. For what it's worth, I think she got what she deserved. The most unexpected message came from Antonio's sister, Sophia. We had never met, but she had obtained my number from the contact information included with the statue. My brother married a stranger, her message read in careful English. Our family is traditional. Honesty and respect for family are everything. Your gift showed us who she truly island. Thank you for your courage, even if the method was unconventional. We have much to discuss with our new sister-in-law. Miranda's messages evolved from outrage to panic as the day progressed. The initial, "How could you," gave way to increasingly desperate pleas. Antonio's family is talking about annulment. Please call them and tell them it was a misunderstanding. Mom is having chest pains from the stress. Are you trying to kill her? The $44,000. I can't pay it all at once, but I'll figure something out. Just please tell everyone this was a mistake. I maintained my silence, letting the situation unfold without further intervention from me. This was the natural consequence of her actions, and for once I wouldn't step in to shield her from reality. Around midnight Italian time, I received a call from an unknown Italian number. It was Antonio. "Cletus," he began formally. "We have not had the pleasure of knowing each other well, but I feel we must speak directly." His English was precise, his tone measured but tense. "I understand there has been a situation regarding my wedding to your sister." "Yes," I replied simply. I believe the marble statue explained it clearly. "It was illuminating," he agreed. "I had been told you were too busy with work to attend, that you had sent your regrets and gifts separately. As you now know, that wasn't true." Antonio sighed heavily. "My family is very concerned. In Italy, how you treat family reflects your character. If Miranda could do this to her brother, what might she do to her husband's family?" "That's a fair question," I said. "One I can't answer for you. She claims it was meant as a joke that went too far. That American humor is different. Do you believe that?" A long pause. "No," he finally admitted. "I have American friends. None would find this humorous." We talked for nearly an hour. Antonio revealed that there had been other inconsistencies in Miranda's stories about her family, her financial situation, and her past. The statue incident had forced him to confront doubts he'd been suppressing. "I love her," he said with genuine anguish, "but I do not know if I can trust her." "I loved her too," I replied, and came to the same conclusion. Before ending the call, Antonio suggested meeting in Venice neutral territory for both of us. He wanted to understand more about Miranda's past and our family dynamic. I agreed, seeing an opportunity to provide context without vindictiveness. 2 days later, we met at a quiet cafe overlooking the Grand Canal. Antonio looked exhausted, the glow of newlywed happiness noticeably absent. "Miranda and my mother had a terrible argument after your gift arrived," he explained, stirring his espresso absently. "My mother called her una donna senza onore, a woman without honor. In our culture, there is no worse insult." "I didn't intend to drive a wedge between Miranda and your family," I said, which was mostly true. I had wanted consequences, not destruction. The wedge was already there, hidden. You simply revealed it. Antonio's expression was pained. "I must ask you, honestly, is this behavior typical for Miranda? Taking advantage, then discarding people?" I could have sugarcoated the truth, protected Miranda one last time. Instead, I told Antonio about our history without embellishment or exaggeration. The pattern of manipulation, the financial exploitation, the emotional gaslighting. Also, the moments of genuine connection, the glimpses of the sister I still love despite everything. "She is capable of change," I concluded, "but only if she faces real consequences for once." Antonio nodded thoughtfully. "I am considering an annulment," he admitted. "My family is insisting. But part of me hopes this crisis might be what forces Miranda to confront herself." "That's between you and her," I said. "My involvement ends with the statue. And the $44,000. That debt remains. Not out of vindictiveness, but because some lessons need to be expensive to be remembered." We parted with a handshake and mutual respect, Whatever happened between him and Miranda Antonio and I had found an unexpected understanding. Back in Naples, I received another call from Miranda. Her tone had shifted dramatically from angry to defeated. "Antonio's talking about annulment," she said without preamble. "His family wants him to end it. Are you happy now?" "I'm not happy about any of this, Miranda. I never wanted to hurt you." "Then why did you do it? Why did you have to humiliate me in front of everyone? Why did you take my money, involve me in planning for months, and then deliberately send me to the wrong city?" She didn't answer immediately. When she did, her voice was barely audible. "I don't know. It seemed funny at first, the idea of you wandering around Naples while we were all in Florence. Then it became about proving I could control something for once instead of you controlling everything. I never tried to control you, Miranda. I tried to support you. By being perfect, by always being the responsible one, the successful one, the one who sacrificed everything for family. Do you know what it's like living in that shadow? No matter what I did, I could never be the perfect child you were." Her words stunned me. In all our years of conflict, it had never occurred to me that Miranda might be jealous of me, the brother who had given up his dreams to support her. "I wasn't perfect, Miranda. I was just doing what needed to be done after Dad died." "You became a martyr," she shot back. "St. Cletus sacrificing for the family. It made it impossible for me to just be normal. I was either the charity case you supported, or the ungrateful brat who didn't appreciate you enough. There was no space to just be myself." For the first time, I glimpsed our relationship through her eyes, and it was disorienting. What I had seen as loving support, she had experienced as suffocating perfection. What I had viewed as necessary sacrifice, she had interpreted as deliberate one-upmanship. "I never saw it that way," I said finally. "You never tried to see anything from my perspective," she replied. "But none of that justifies what I did. I know that. I need to understand why I keep hurting the people who care about me the most." It was the most self-aware statement I'd ever heard from Miranda, a tiny crack in the defensive armor she'd worn for years. "What are you going to do about Antonio?" I asked. "Try to save my marriage if it's not already too late, and figure out how to pay you back somehow. The money was never the most important part, Miranda." "I know. It was the betrayal." Her voice cracked. "Can we talk when I get back to the States? Really talk, not just fight or pretend." "Yes," I said. "I'd like that." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was an opening, a possibility that from this painful mess something healthier might eventually grow. 2 weeks after the wedding that should have been, I found myself in Rome, the final stop on my unexpected Italian tour. Miranda and Antonio had returned to New York, their marriage intact but fragile. According to our brief text exchanges, they were starting couples therapy, and Miranda was seeing an individual therapist as well. We had arranged to meet in Rome before I flew back to Seattle. Neutral territory, as Antonio had wisely suggested for our meeting. I arrived at the cafe near the Trevi Fountain, early ordering an espresso and watching tourists toss coins into the water, making wishes for love and return visits to the Eternal City. When Miranda arrived, I barely recognized her. Gone was the polished, confident socialite who had breezed through life expecting others to clean up her messes. This Miranda looked smaller somehow, her designer clothes replaced by simple jeans and a blouse, her typically perfect makeup minimal. "I wasn't sure you'd actually come," she said, sliding into the chair opposite me. I said I would. An uncomfortable silence stretched between us. 16 years of complicated history, making small talk impossible. "I've been thinking about what you said," I began. "About feeling like you lived in my shadow." Miranda nodded, fidgeting with her napkin. "It started after Dad died. You became this perfect substitute father, and I was the broken little girl everyone worried about. Mom was so focused on my trauma that she never saw yours. You never got to grieve him because you were too busy taking care of us." The observation was startlingly insightful. I had never articulated it even to myself, but she was right. I had buried my grief under responsibility. "That doesn't excuse how I've treated you," she continued, "especially with the wedding. I've been trying to understand why I did something so cruel to the person who supported me the most. Have you found any answers? She looked out at the fountain, gathering her thoughts. My therapist says I've been transferring my anger about Dad's death onto you. That because you stepped into his role, you became the target for all my unresolved feelings about him abandoning us. He didn't abandon us, Miranda. He died. Logically, I know that. Emotionally, it felt like abandonment. And then you became so perfect, so responsible, that I couldn't be angry at you either, without seeming ungrateful. So the anger just festered. It made a certain sense. The timing of her behavioral changes, the increasing resentment despite my support, the seemingly irrational hostility. The wedding was the breaking point, she admitted. When you agreed to pay for everything, part of me was grateful, but another part was furious that once again you were the hero and I was the charity case. So I came up with this idea that I thought would finally put me in control. I would take your money but exclude you from the celebration. I would have the power for once. And how did that feel when you sent me to Naples? Her eyes filled with tears. Terrible. Even before your statue arrived, I felt sick about it. But I couldn't admit I'd done something so awful, so I doubled down. Told myself you deserved it for always making me feel small. We talked for hours, peeling back layers of resentment, misunderstanding, and pain. For the first time, I shared my own struggles, the dreams I'd abandoned, the relationships that failed because of my family obligations, the resentment I'd suppressed until it exploded in a marble statue. I'm starting to repay the money, Miranda said as our conversation wound down. It's going to take time, but Antonio and I worked out a payment plan. His family insisted. Actually, no, I insisted. They wanted him to annul the marriage, but he refused. Said everyone deserves one chance to prove they can change. The payments were my idea, part of showing him I'm serious about becoming someone he can trust. It was the first time I could remember Miranda taking real responsibility without being forced. A small step, but significant. What about Mom? I asked. This was the question I'd been avoiding. Miranda sighed. She's still angry at you. Says you humiliated both of us intentionally. I tried explaining that I started it, but she doesn't want to hear it, I think. I think she can't face her role in creating this dynamic between us. Which was playing us against each other, making you the responsible caretaker and me the perpetual victim. It worked for her, so she never questioned it. The insight was brutal but accurate. Mom had enabled and encouraged our dysfunctional roles for years. Changing the pattern would require her participation too, and that seemed unlikely in the near term. As we prepared to part ways, Miranda asked hesitantly, "Do you think we can ever have a normal sibling relationship?" "I don't know what normal looks like for us," I admitted, "but I think we can build something healthier than what we had. It starts with honesty and boundaries." "Boundaries," she repeated. "My therapist talks about those a lot, says I never developed them because you and Mom never had any with me." She's probably right. We agreed to continue talking once back in the States to maintain the fragile bridge we'd begun building, not rushing to forgiveness or pretending the past didn't happen, but acknowledging it and finding a way forward with clearer expectations. After Miranda left for her hotel, I stayed by the fountain reflecting on our conversation. For 16 years I had defined myself as the responsible one, the provider, the protector. It had become my identity, my purpose. Letting go of that role was terrifying but necessary. Who was Cletus without the burden of family obligation? It was time to find out. The remaining months of the year brought gradual change. Miranda made regular payments toward the debt, small amounts but consistent. Our conversations, though sometimes awkward, remained honest. She stayed in therapy, working through her issues with Antonio, supporting her efforts. Mom eventually reached out, not with an apology, but with a tentative olive branch. "I miss hearing from you," her message said. No acknowledgement of her role in the rift, but no accusations either. I responded cordially but maintained firm boundaries about what I would and wouldn't discuss. As for me, I began my own journey of healing. I started therapy to address the suppressed grief and resentment I'd carried since Dad's death. I reconnected with old friends I'd neglected while focusing on family obligations. I even started dating again with a healthier understanding of what I wanted from a relationship. The marble statue that had caused such upheaval now sat in Antonio and Miranda's basement, a silent reminder of consequences and turning points. Miranda joked in one of our calls that she was thinking of planting flowers around it, turning something ugly into something beautiful. Perhaps that was happening with our relationship as well. The ugly truth had been exposed, but from that painful revelation something more authentic was slowly taking root. The most important lesson I learned from this experience wasn't about family loyalty or even self-respect, though both were part of it. It was understanding the difference between sacrifice and self-destruction. For years I had confused the two, believing that erasing my own needs in service to family was noble rather than unsustainable. True love, whether for family or partners, requires balance. It demands honesty about expectations and limitations. It necessitates boundaries that protect both parties. Most importantly, it cannot thrive in an environment of manipulation and exploitation, no matter how these behaviors are justified. I don't regret sending that marble statue, though some might view it as petty revenge. It wasn't about the money, or even the wedding invitation. It was about finally saying no to a pattern that was destroying both Miranda and me in different ways. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for those we love is to stop protecting them from the consequences of their actions. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with someone you love? How did you balance compassion with self-protection? Share your experiences in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you. Thank you for listening to my journey from betrayal to healing, and remember, sometimes the bravest act of love is simply telling the truth even when it hurts. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.